This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 489 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. Wait, they come in red? Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad you joined us. Let's start off like a direct with a virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany Bengal.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello everyone.
Hello.
I would, off the bat, I would like to apologize. I'm sure our regulars noticed there was no show last week, and I did not post anything about there not being a show last week, because last week was absolutely bonkers at work. So, between work and real life. But, if you didn't notice, while there was no show, there is a new video up on our YouTube channel. So, there was new content that dropped for you, just not your podcast feeds. So, go check that out, and there's more where that came from. I can guarantee that much. Oh my goodness. And speaking of everything getting away from us because we were off for a week. Some good, some bad, some blah, and all of the in-between we have in the way news. So starting with several pieces of 10 o'clock news, unfortunately. Yeah. First up is Michelle Trachtenberg has passed away at the age of 39. Which, depending on your age, she is younger Pete's bestie on the Adventures of Pete and Pete. Constantly, her arm is in the cast. The entire run of the series.
Yep.
She was also Harriet the Spy.
This is the first, for me, it's the first one I've seen before.
And then, of course, she was Dawn, Buffy's sister in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then she was on Gossip Girl, and then the return of Gossip Girl. So, yeah, she had quite the career starting at a young age, but unfortunately, recent years she has been out of the limelight for, among other things, health issues. Will not likely ever get actual cause of death because her family has decided not to have an autopsy done for religious reasons. But Michelle had, I believe, a liver transplant.
That is correct. That is correct.
Somewhat recently, so it could have been related to that, but we'll never know. But 39 is too young, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to see some of her co-stars, that people that we also grew up with, people like Kenan Thompson and from Harriet the Spy was a Nickelodeon thing, and obviously Pete and Pete also as well. So she was good friends with a lot of the Nickelodeon stars. Melissa Joan Hart.
Emily DeRobin had mentioned something, so they must have crossed paths somewhere down the line between CW and whatnot, because I think Emily might have been on like Roswell or something before going to Lost. Not 100% sure on that one.
Yeah. Of course, Danny Tamborelli. So Sarah Michelle Gellar, Rosie O'Donnell. So,
and I know James Marsters, Christian Kane, Dave
folks
posted
from
stuff
Buffy.
to folks from Buffy. Yep.
Yeah. That's yeah. Hopefully her friends and family can find some peace, even if they never get, definitive answers. So, oh my. And then our other piece of 10 o'clock news, which also is mired in mystery and in intrigue and controversy and all sorts of things. Especially leading into the Academy Awards, because he is an Academy Award winner. But Gene Hackman has passed away. It was him, his wife, and one of their dogs. Were found dead in their home in New Mexico. And by all accounts of what we know so far, they have been dead for
weeks,
quite a while. At least 10 days. 10 days, yeah. What I've read. Yeah. So, there's going to be a lot of work for them to try to figure out what happened. So,
because they ruled out some things, and now they're interested in looking into their personal devices to see what can be found in there. So
because the nature of the nature of how they were found is suspicious. It doesn't seem to necessarily be foul play suspicious, but
suspicious nonetheless.
Yeah,
because I think one of the reports I read, the door was wide open.
Yeah.
Well,
they lived in a gate. I think they lived in like a gated community, so it wasn't like other neighborhoods where sometimes you could have decent traffic. They kept to themselves. I mean, Gene was 95.
Yeah.
So if it had just been him, then you could be like, well, he was 95.
Right.
But his wife was, granted she's 30 years she's junior, but she's also 65. Right. Which is not that old, and the dog too just makes it. And it seems like they just dropped where they were. Something happened and they just collapsed, and that was it. So, but that's terrible to think that they all passed away and nobody had any idea for a significant amount of time. So hopefully they can find.
Answers,
again, some answers, and hopefully, their loved ones can get some closure. So, we will, I guess, wait and see. There's no good way to transition from stuff like this, so we're just gonna move on to
straight ahead.
Yeah, we're just gonna chuck ahead. So, PopCon has announced that along with this year's event at the end of June here in Indianapolis, they have announced the inaugural PopCon Creator Summit. So this will be the 2 days before Indie PopCon commence. And it is going to be an event for content creators, podcasters, filmmakers, authors, industry professionals. There will be panels, there will be networking opportunities, there will be demonstrations, all sorts of things like that. If you're a content creator, which, I mean, PopCon definitely, they don't just focus on the celebrities, they bring in YouTubers and like professional gamers and stuff like that. So, to give people an opportunity that really want to dive into, I do this thing, how can I do it better without any distractions? This is your opportunity to do that. So, tickets are on sale for that at a discounted rate for, as we're recording this, I think for the next week until March 10th, and then prices will go up. That includes admission to the summit and admission to PopCon. So if you we're planning on going to PopCon anyway, and you can tack on 2 more days at the beginning of your stay. That's I mean, that essentially gets you 5 days admission to PopCon related stuff. So, I think that's pretty cool. They will be, we'll have a link to the press release, which includes information on where to go to register, that sort of thing. And then I guess at some point, because last I checked the website, the ability to submit panels and things like that are not available yet. So if you're like, I'm an expert in this thing, although it does have, when you go to purchase your admission, it'll ask you what your thing is, and it has a little checkbox. It's like, I would consider myself a subject matter expert in my profession. So if you do that, maybe they'll reach. I don't know. It's still the website, I think, is still a work in progress, but at the very least you can buy your ticket. That is I think that's pretty cool. I'm excited I'm definitely gonna go. I will be there. So I think I know a thing or two about content creation.
Yes, just a bit.
Just a bit.
Just a touch.
It's not like we're currently recording podcast episode 489.
Exactly.
So.
And how many trial runs we had before that?
Yeah, I think I might. I don't think or do about at least the creation of the content part.
Yeah.
Oh, there is that. Look forward to. I'm sure seeing some familiar faces. Oh, and speaking of content for us, because we now have April's is going to be very busy. Our Disney Plus account is going to be very hopping because we've got Andor season 2 coming to us April 22nd on Disney Plus, which hell yeah. I know I told Chauncey that. He was very excited. I was like, your boy's back.
Which boy?
Andor.
Sometimes you gotta specify depending on how many fandoms you have.
That's true. Well, in this case, it's Cassian Andor. He really liked Andor, and he really liked Cassian Andor in Rogue One. So that's pretty cool. And then Doctor Who is coming back almost Easter Saturday. It's a week too early for Easter Saturday.
Missed it by that much.
So close. So yeah, April.
Sean's 12th. Getting there. You're getting there, Sean.
Yeah.
One of these years.
Yeah, but April 12th, we are jumping back in the TARDIS with Shudigatwa. Yes. And some new friends, some new villains.
And the return of an actor playing a different character.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Who Brittany and I know, and nice to have him back.
Right? Mm-hmm. And the character looks interesting, so
yes. Yeah. Well, Holly and I, we were chatting last night, and we were talking, because I don't think Nick had seen because Nick doesn't watch trailers for anything, so he hadn't seen the trailer for new season Doctor Who, but he asked, it's like, does it look good? Any spoilers or anything? There's no Daleks to be seen anywhere.
Or Cybermen or Masters, so
no. That doesn't mean it can't happen,
yet.
At this point,
yet.
At this point, so far, And we were like, yeah. And then I was like, except one of the episode plots, they seemingly stole from Big Finish.
Yep.
Like, we've
And we
already
covered it.
reviewed that Big Finish story.
And it was my pick, if I remember correctly, from when we were trying to figure in chat.
Yeah.
Because I think I usually have a tendency to pick Sylvester for my
So
for my audios.
I was thinking about it afterwards, and I'm like, well, we know Big Finish is canon.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the Shooty's doctor will mention that he's been to this particular event before.
That could be. Now, they better have him have a set of spoons, though.
Yeah.
Somewhere to make this even more canonical.
Yeah, really. He'd be like, yeah, I was here before. I had spoons. You could have watched me play the spoons. So, yeah. But other than that, I was like, because I was like, oh, yeah, Doctor! Woo! And then they were like, welcome to whatever the hell it's called. It's essentially Eurovision, but for the entire universe. Yeah. Singing competition. I'm like, wait a minute, we've already done that in Big Finish.
I'm sensing some deja vu.
Yeah. I was like, the doctor better make sure to mention that he's been to this event before.
And Mel can verify.
Yes, that is true. And Mel is returning. So I didn't even think of that. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how that one particular plays into the continuity. So
yes,
I guess it depends on whether this particular event is one that happens after, because like Eurovision, it happens every year, every other year, however they do it.
Right.
So it's like, is this one occurring after the one that's a Big Finish, or maybe before? I don't know.
Right, exactly, because we don't know where in the time stream or continuity.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, but I'll be interested to see.
This could be Shooty. This could be the Doctor's first visit.
Yeah,
and the Seventh Doctor, that could be his second visit. So,
I guess we'll find out how this fits into the greater continuity. But it's just so funny to have. Like, wait a minute. I know there's a lot of Big Finish I've not listened to yet, but I recognize a plot when I see one.
See it, yes. See one, hear one, yeah.
Yeah. But I'll make sure I'll try to remember to put the link to that particular episode where we reviewed that particular Big Finish audio. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of funny. But looks like it's gonna be fun, as it always is, because it's Doctor Who. And I really love that they're continuing playing up with the wardrobe. That Shooty's doctor is all like, the TARDIS has a really big ass wardrobe, damn it, and I'm gonna use it.
Yes, exactly.
None of this wearing the same outfit over and over and over again.
You gotta show your style sense.
Yes. Although some former companions would probably complain that not every incarnation has style sense, but teach their own.
I don't mind your doctor's style sense. I do prefer him in his blue incarnation suit. The rainbow one's nice though too. So
yes,
it's growing on
you. It grows on you. Yeah. In my case, it slaps you across the face and says, "You're mine now."
Exactly. And for those of you who are wondering which Big Finish audio we are talking, it's Bang Bang a Boom.
Yep. So there is that. But speaking of Doctor Who, we are in a new month. We survived February, for better or worse.
Yep.
So welcome to March.
Yes. So that means book club. So this month's book is Doctor in Wonderland, which is a Fifth Doctor story. So Chrissy shall be happy. And then our choices for April are Death in the Stars, which is a story with Mel and Sabalon Blitz that our own Mel, Bonnie Langford, wrote. Then we have Origin Stories, which is a collection of how some of the villains came to be. So we're looking at like Davros, the Master, and that. So with some pretty interesting authors, Katie Manning and Sophie Aldred have contributed stories to this one. So, and then Evil of the Daleks, which is a retelling, well, kind of a retelling, but it is written by Fraser Hines. So that's a Second Doctor and Jamie story. And then for current Doctor story that is now available, it is Caged. So those are our choices. So
Woohoo!
you have an option to vote. You can only vote once, but you have until the 31st. So if you vote once, read the description, and change your mind, you can go back and change your vote. So you have till midnight of the 31st to make your selection.
There you go. All right. So we are going to, before we get to this week's main topic, we did want to talk about the Oscars, which were last night. Holly and I are both dragging a little because it made us both stay up past our bedtime.
But it was worth it. It was worth it.
It was worth it. Yeah.
The company.
Yeah. If I had been watching it alone, I would have just been like, whatever. But
I'm going to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. But we did once again have our little friendly competition. And yeah, we had to change things up a little. We changed up the teams, so I used a like an online
randomizer.
I took all of the people who said they wanted to play and stuck them in the randomizer and had it spit out teams. So it ended up with it essentially ended up with Gold Standard and Sean versus everybody else.
Yeah.
Basically.
I'm just like,
Hey, y'all saw the video of me using the randomizer.
I know.
You know that I had no hand in it whatsoever.
It was kosher. I know.
It was kosher.
I'm just the.
But yeah, it is a little funny that essentially it was like the movie people versus everybody else.
Yeah.
So it was me, Nick, Zan, and Sean from Flex with Friends on one team, and then Brittany, Holly, Glenn, and Frank Mendoza.
Yes, Frank Mendoza. Yep.
From Silver Scraders on the other team, and so we split off into the chats for our respective teams, and because we had to wait until all the other awards ceremonies happened first, once again we did not have a lot of turnaround in between, in this case, the SAG Awards and the Oscars, because I like to think that being able to see those four. Obviously, if you want to if you really want to nerd out, you could really pay attention to more awards that get handed out,
like Critics' Choice.
Well, no, the Critics' Choice I include.
Oh, that's
but
right.
I just use, at least as far as whatever team I'm on is concerned, I have a spreadsheet that keeps track of the Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, Critics' Choice, and the BAFTAs.
Yep.
So that we can use those to see if something is seemingly walking away with all the awards. Maybe that's an indicator that it's also going to win the Oscar. It's not perfect because some categories they don't exist in others.
Right.
Obviously, with the BAFTAs, also they have a lot of categories that are strictly British. So something may win in one of those categories, or it's even seemingly the non-British categories, just because it's British. But it's better than nothing. It's just one of those nerdy things that I like to do. It's a spreadsheet, essentially. With all the once we know the Oscar nominees, I can make the spreadsheet, and as the other award ceremonies occur, we can plug in who wins, and then we put in our individual choices, and then from there, in case anybody listening is new, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of how this works. Is we have our teams. The teams communicate with the members of each team communicate with their fellow teammates.
Yep.
Everybody. Yeah, we have a deadline of the way things have been going the last few years. It's like a day or two before the Academy Awards. Because some people, like Sean, try to watch all the Best Picture nominees before making his decision. And that's a lot, because that's 10 movies. Yep. Mm-hmm. Along with all the other stuff he has, to watch and review for Flicks with Friends. So the man's very busy watching stuff. What we do is however many members on the team. In this case, it was 2 teams of 4. Each person in the team makes their pick of who they think is going to win each category. This year there's 23 categories. Starting next year, we'll have 24. With the new casting award category. But and then whoever's the team captain takes all those picks, puts them together, and if there's, for each category, if there seems to be a majority pick a certain, that's who the team as a whole will choose as their winner for that category. If there's not a clear winner, if there happens to be a tie, each captain can use whatever method they want to break that tie.
Be a gap session or a coin flip, or
right. It just kind of depends. So, I think most of the time we've gone with a coin flip. Some of them.
Well, I know the one time when we were all on a team, it was like we tried the randomizer. The randomizer tied us, and then it's just like coin flip.
Yeah, because the thing is because there's at least 5 nominees in each category,
right?
So in past years where we've had like 5 people on our team, you can have a tie because one person is an outlier. You could have 2 and 2 and 1.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's it's not like, if you got 5 people, one person could be the tiebreaker, only if they want to change their choice.
Right. Basically, cue the scene from 12 Angry Men.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, okay, let us convince you.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, it's never had to get to that point, but
no.
We don't take it that seriously. This is for fun. But anyway, so once the team has their team ballot filled out, we put the 2 together so we can see what the head-to-head is like. I think last year, I think we only deferred in like 4 categories or something like that.
I think that's what we thought. Yeah, like 3 or 4. It wasn't that many.
It was not a lot. So early on, it became obvious that unless something drastic changed, one team was going to come out ahead and stay there.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is sometimes. This year, we were very diverse. 23 categories. We differentiated on 12 of them. So
right, and it was sometimes we were like 1 and 1, and then you guys had a 2-point cushion, and then you guys just kind of
it wasn't until I think there was like 5 or 6 categories left.
Yeah, that it was pretty much it was over.
Yeah. So, but
and some of our categories, both teams got upset.
Yes, yeah, there were several. There were several where we were just both wrong, and I wouldn't necessarily say they were upset, necessarily. Like, animated feature, there could have been an argument made for picking Flow because it had picked up several awards elsewhere. They weren't like the big ones necessarily, those four, but it was a pretty good, winner just in general. So yeah, there could have been an argument made there if somebody really wanted to pick Flow over the Wild Robot. I honestly think it could have gone either way, honestly.
Right.
So there's things like that. I mean, there's a few where it's all like, there are also some looking back where it's like, yeah, I could see that. But I mean, there were several where we were just like both in agreement. I mean, Dune 2 essentially walked away with the same awards Dune 1 walked away with, for the most part, except for cinematography. I think what I would say was the biggest actual upset is Best Actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Demi Moore was walking away with everything, and then to not win Best Actress, it shocked a lot of people, including her, unfortunately. So, that's got to be a gut punch. Goodness gracious, I need sleep. Of course, when you go to these things, I'm sure she went in going, there's always a chance that she was not going to win, but at the same time, statistically, it seemed pretty good odds that she was going to win. But nope. So that being said, at the end of it all, the team Amazon won. We never could really come up with a name. So when we first had the team's rosters, and we went off on our chat, and as a placeholder I put Team TBD 2025, and it was like, we'll just come up with a name eventually, and after a while we're just like, no, that's just gonna be our name. We were Team TBD 2025.
I'm like, hey, this works.
It was Team TBD 2025 versus the Defiers of Gravity. And we won. So we got 15 out of the 23. And actually, Sean and Nick actually did better than the team overall did. So, and I was just one shy of matching the team. So Zan got 8, which, she does not need. She's very much like Chrissy in a way, where she just kind of is like, Zan tends to go with her heart, her emotions. So, not really paying that much attention to like what's been winning what. But still 8 for just not like putting a lot of scientific thought behind it. That's pretty good. I got 14. Sean got 16. And then Nick ended up being our individual winner with 17 out of 23, which I think is pretty good. So that's the thing, is at the end of it all, you'll have the team, whichever team gets the most right is declared the winner, and they get to decide on a bad movie for the losing team to watch. And with the individuals, we also keep track of who gets how many right individually, and whoever on the winning team gets the most right, they get first crack at deciding what the punishment movie is going to be. So, I mean, if they can defer, if they if they can't make a decision or don't necessarily make a decision all by themselves. So, I mean, that's what happened last year. Well, last year we tied. The two teams tied. But still, as because it was a tie, we went with we made a short list of bad movies, and we let the online picker pick one at random on. So, but this year Nick was all like, he's like, I'm on it. And actually, right before we got on to record, he let you guys know what your punishment, which will be the 1999 so I'm sure has not aged well at all. Matthew Broderick helmed live action film adaptation of Inspector Gadget.
Oh boy. I didn't even see it. I wasn't really liked it, but I was also like 9, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's changed in the 20.
I am sure you are right.
Mhm.
It could be worse. I saw the other option that he had teased Glenn with.
Yeah,
Glenn.
at first he was thinking of making you guys watch Cats. So
yes, I am very happy to be watching Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, at least with Cats, there's music to sing along with.
True.
You could be like me, because I made a joke that I would just watch the film musical version.
Yeah. So yeah, but now it is in your Captain Frank's court to determine how you guys will suffer your punishment. How you guys will go about that. So see if maybe a special episode of Silver Screeners is going to be in the feed soon. Maybe.
Haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, well, we had to tell you what your assignment was first. So
yeah,
but yeah. Oh my, that was fun. Like I said, I mean, it's all in good fun. We don't take it too seriously.
No.
But it is the fact that we're able to get online. Some people were in the text chat. Some of us were actually in Zoom and could actually speak to one another. It was mostly Holly, Nick, and I, although Glenn did come and hang out for a little while.
Yep.
I think Zan was in the text chats along with Charles. Charles was just watching the insanity unfold.
And so. I loved how he did our normal Inter Milan when the game starts.
It's like
for the
it's like
Oscars. Hey.
Well, yeah, it's a competition.
Yep.
But if it wasn't for our competition and the social aspect of it, I don't think I would be nearly as invested in staying up well past my bedtime to watch. Although with doing Gold Standard, I also kind of need to know what movie we're doing.
True.
Now that we have this year's winner, so coming
because you're all caught up.
Soon, so coming soonish to the feeds is going to be our review of Anora. So there you go. And now we wait. We'll do that review, and then we begin the wait for the 98th Best Picture winner, which is wild because we're so close to getting to that 100th Best Picture winner. I know.
And can I say that Oscar set was gorgeous, and I don't mind if they keep that set for a while and decide not to try to reinvent the wheel, because that was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And I think Conan did a pretty good job hosting.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
There were several times where I was laughing out loud.
Oh yeah.
So
I
say
I only counted one clear political jab.
One that was really on the nose. Yeah. I think there may have been some others that maybe we missed because we were too busy talking with each other.
Right.
We all had the actual Oscars, the volume turned down so we could hear each other talk. So I'm sure maybe there was a few things we missed.
Yes. Well, it was funny too because sometimes you'd be ahead.
Yes.
And then I'd be ahead, and then thank heavens when you lost your feed, I still had my feed because Nick with his, he would get his Italian commentators, so it was just like
because for Nick, unfortunately, it's all in Italian. With they just have some local TV talent from Italy yapping, so he's not getting necessarily the actual proper feed.
Or he gets double talk. He'll hear the English, but then he'll get the Italian interpretation right over it, which makes it, I'm
Right.
assuming,
Which
very
you would-
hard to.
Right, which you would think that the Italian, that they could give people the option to watch just in English, because I'm sure Nick is not the only person living in Italy that knows how to listen and understand English.
Right,
So,
exactly.
so this was the first year, so I am going to give them a little bit of leeway. This was the first year that they were streaming on the internet. Because it's on ABC, so of course it's Disney, so it was you could watch it live on Hulu. I was watching it using my internet. I know, Holly, you were watching it via satellite?
Satellite, correct, yep.
Yeah. So, towards the end there, the feed started to get very buggy, very glitchy. It would lag. And so, yeah, there were several points where, like, Holly and I's feeds were pretty much in sync, so we were hearing stuff at the same time. Nick was slightly off because it's a completely different feed, so that's understandable. It's also he's getting a transmission all the way in Italy from Hollywood,
Right.
so it's got to travel a little further.
Yeah.
But then my feed
completely
via the internet,
out on you.
Yeah, watching it via the web version, started to buffer, which would cause me to get behind. And then eventually it just stopped because on Hulu it said 97th Academy Awards, 7 p.m. to 10:32. And guess when it cut off? Exactly at 10:32. Because I guess they were so sure that they were going to be done by 10:32. Guess what? They were not done.
No. This is the Oscars.
Yeah.
It has a tendency to run just a touch late.
Yeah. So, we still had 3 categories? 2-3 categories left to go?
Maybe 4?
I know by the time because I eventually switched to the ASL sign language feed, which has no audio whatsoever, which makes sense because it's sign language. Those are deaf and hard of hearing wouldn't be able to hear it anyway. That's why it's a lady in this case doing sign language, ASL sign language in front of kind of a blank background. Although she was fabulous. She was dressed up to look nice, and she had very very good at signing. She's very obviously into it. I mean, my sign language is very, very, very rusty. And I didn't learn ASL, what little I did learn. However, I do know how to finger spell. So I was able, when they would get to a point where they were awarding something, I figured out really quickly what the sign for that was. So she would do that, and then she would have to finger spell out the winner, so I was able to read that and understand. So, guess it's better. Plus, I had your commentary, Holly, because by then you were way ahead of the rest of us. So we were just like, Holly's in the future. She's just telling us what's happening.
Yeah. If you could tell us what the picture winner is, that would be awesome. Like, I'm not that far in the future.
Yeah. But you were definitely far enough ahead of us that it was like, okay, well, I can check that off now. So, but yeah. But like I said, this was their first year doing this type of streaming. So, and of course, Best Picture, I think from actress forward, that's when probably they got a lot more users, because everybody wants to see the Best Picture. Yeah, because that's the granddaddy. So I think that's partially what happened to the feed, is it was getting closer to the last award of the night, which is the big kahuna. So suddenly there's way more people now trying to watch via the streaming feed than there were the 3.5 hours before that. And I think it just couldn't handle it. So that would be my guess. with my limited knowledge of this type of technology. So I will give them a little bit of leeway just because this is their first time doing this. I would love to see it continue. Being able to watch via streaming something like Hulu or Disney Plus it's fantastic. Because those of us that don't have regular TV tend to miss out on live events quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but hopefully this is a lesson learned on what they need as far as like infrastructure to handle that type of usage, so that they can bolster it for next year if they decide to continue such access, which I am all for. Yeah, I had fun. I think you guys had fun.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. Good company.
Yeah. Yep. And now we wait.
Mm-hmm.
Now we wait till next year. So
And looking forward to doing the same thing again.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, moving on. Speaking of all that fun stuff, we got some feedback from Shalane. Speaking of things that we've talked about recently. So she says that, yep, I am watching Bluey as my New Year's resolution this year. It's funny how My Little Pony and Bluey are both preschool shows that appeal to both kids and adults. My Little Pony's adult fandom is called Bronies for the dudes and Pegasisters for the women. I personally prefer Brony for both men and women. Do not identify as a Pegasister. I identify as a Brony. But that's just me. She says, I wonder what the adult fandom name for Bluey will be. I don't know. It reminds me that there's a video I saw on TikTok I need to share with you guys in the chat. That's about adults who love Bluey. I just finished season 1 and I'm now on season 2. She asks, is Bluey the first preschool show or are the cartoons you girls have talked about? No, because we have done an episode about My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. It was a while ago, but we have. She says, I'll be patient until you get to discussing some of these classics. And of course, Shalane doing what Shalane does best, giving us a list of stuff that more than likely, at least some of it, is already on our list. It's like the to be read pile of books next to your bed. This is all the to be talked about on the podcast list.
Very, very, both lists, very TARDIS-like.
Yes.
Forever growing, not shrinking.
Yes.
Which is a good problem to have.
Yeah. And she does suggest a number of good ones. So, speaking of Disney legends, you girls should do an episode about the 9 old men. That would be really interesting. Yeah, we could. I don't think, unless you're really big into Disney history, I don't think a lot of the, just the surface level Disney fans really know. They just know Walt and don't realize the core group that worked with him for pretty much his entire career once the Disney company became a thing, and how influential they were. So yeah, that's definitely going on the list. Thank you, Shalane. She says, I found tons of Bluey merch for adults at Walmart and Target. Oh, there is Bluey merch everywhere. So much Bluey everywhere. I went to Five Below. 2 different Five Belows, actually, over the weekend. And both of them had a lot of Bluey. So, plenty of Bluey merch to go around. Did I buy any? No. At least not this time. She said, so far my favorite Bluey episodes are Blue Mountains, Yoga Ball, The Beach, and Trampoline. She says, when I was 10 and 11, I was into Hello Kitty and Care Bears. In my early 20s, I was into My Little Pony, and now I'm into Bluey. They keep making cool stuff that even us adults can be like, yeah, I like this thing.
Right?
What of it? I mean, I was into Blue's Clues at 16, so
yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yep. I mean, every now and again, I'll catch myself humming the nail song when I go to check.
Oh yeah, we sing that. We sing that. That gets sung at least once a week at work. when the mailman shows up. So, in fact, today we didn't do the mail song, but we did the "We Just Got a Letter." Yeah, that part of the mail segment. So, just today. Here you go. It says there's going to be a Blue movie. Of course, there's going to be a Bluey movie. It's not if, it's when. Yes. That is a guarantee. They can make movies out of anything. Of course, Bluey is going to get a movie. So, thank you, Shalane, for your comments, your questions, and your suggestions to be added to the I guess TBR is to be read, but it also be to be recorded.
Or to be reviewed. Or TBW to be watched.
Yeah. To be watched and reviewed.
Yeah.
Yep. TBP, to be podcasted.
There we go.
Some cases, TBS, to be squeed.
I like that one.
Alrighty. Moving on to a movie that did not win anything at the Oscars yesterday, but that's okay, because I'm sure that of all the Best Picture nominees other than Wicked, I think I've still enjoyed this a hell of a lot more than 9 out of 10 of those. So, and I had to finally, come hell or high water, I had to get to the movie theater this weekend, otherwise somebody was going to take away my MCU street cred card. Because I had not gone to see Captain America Brave New World yet. And we couldn't let that happen. So, spoiler alert from here on out for anyone who does not want to be spoiled about the latest entry into the MCU. This is okay. I read this, and I'm excited that the MCU is still going on, but when I read this number, for a minute there, I thought my brain kind of broke. This is the 35th MCU film.
Wow. Dang.
This is the 35th entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So,
and we're how many years in?
So 2008. So
not quite
2017. It'll be 17 in May.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, I was like, holy crap, 35. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That short amount of time.
Right? Jesus, it. So, yeah. But, yeah. So, spoiler alert. One last time. Obviously, this is our first Captain America movie where Chris Evans is not playing the titular role, but now Anthony Mackie is heading his own film after receiving the shield from Old Man Rogers at the end of Endgame, and then struggling to take up the mantle in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I would say, if you need a refresher for this, I would say watch The Incredible Hulk, the one with Liv Tyler and not Mark Ruffalo. So I would watch that. I would watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and some people may grimace at hearing this, but you need to watch The Eternals. So, if you haven't, you need to, because it's kind of important.
And if you were kind of meh to begin with, give it another shot.
Yes. Because, like it or not, it is part of the overall MCU and does play a part in the rest of the cinematic universe. Case in point, this movie. So, we are now in a world where General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, now being played by Harrison Ford, because our OG General Ross, William Hurt, is no longer with us. He passed away in the last few years, so they recast the role. So he is now president of the United States. Not the first time that Harrison Ford has played president of the United States, actually. And he is this is post Eternals, post Blip, obviously, and all that. And the partially risen Eternal that started to raise from the water in Eternals has been poked and prodded by in this case it's the US. It's a treaty Ross is trying to get to happen between the US, Japan, France, and India, about considering what they're calling Celestial Island, neutral, so that not one country can be like, this is ours. They're not going to be like Eddie Izzard, and be like, I claim India for Britain because I have a flag type thing. No one gets that joke. You are all uncultured. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to YouTube and type in Eddie Izzard flag. That's all you need to know. And it's not so much because there's a giant celestial that is, partially risen from the middle of the Indian Ocean, but it turns out that in the process of freezing said celestial so that it would not completely hatch and just completely destroy the planet, at least in our universe, and I say our universe, I mean the 616, the universe that we have been watching since 2008, is actually a resource for adamantium, which I did not see that coming. Ross is giving this speech at the White House. He's like, blah, 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 blah. I'd like to present to you adamantium. And I'm like, wait, what? This is how this is getting introduced into our universe. Great. Okay. Yay. So for those that don't know, adamantium, at least as far as the comics are concerned, and in the Fox universe pre-Disney purchase, adamantium is a man-made material. It's very scientifically complex on how it's made, but still it is man-made. And Wolverine, his entire skeleton is infused with adamantium. That's why he is able to heal and take a beating, and that's what his claws are also made out of, is adamantium. So, but in this universe, adamantium apparently is a quote-unquote natural material, which, I mean, considering what you could do with adamantium, if its source is coming from essentially a god, sure, why not? But this has potentially major implications for the MCU. So, the fact that they're introducing adamantium without anything else, no Wolverine, no X-Men, no nothing, and the fact that it's a found material as opposed to one that is created is quite interesting. But Ross is trying to get these other countries to sign this treaty so that it'll essentially be an agreement that nobody is going to try to get a monopoly on this thing. And through the course of some meddling that we will find out later in the film who's responsible for, because the first piece of adamantium, which is how they named it and stuff, was a piece that Ross had, or people had on his orders. It got stolen. Now he's on like the black market, going to the highest bidder, and Sam and Joaquin, who, if you remember from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's taken over the mantle essentially of Falcon. He's wearing Sam's old gear. Go and try to procure it during a black market dealing in Mexico, and that's where they encounter I don't believe they actually call out. They don't call it exactly the Serpent Society, but that's essentially what it is. It's the Serpent Society, and all the people in it. They've got code names that are snakes. And we get Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder, which he looked like he was having fun playing this part, honestly. Like, he's running around with guns and all sorts of stuff, just like shooting the shit out of things, and he's just like, a slightly different vibe with a lightsaber than versus a giant gun. But of course, Sam is still friends with Isaiah Bradley, who we meet in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who was a fellow super soldier, because Steve was not the only one. It's just they were never able to quite replicate what happened to Steve, and Isaiah was the only one to survive, but he, in the process, had been imprisoned for 30 years. And now he's just trying to live his life. But he ends up getting temporarily brainwashed and tries to kill the president. And of course, that creates a whole bunch of issues because Isaiah is Sam's friend. And of course, Sam was like, there's no way my friend would do this. And Isaiah's like, I don't remember shit after like this moment in the evening. And there's a whole, it's very kind of, it's like the MCU meets like the Bourne Identity ish Jack Ryan, which is funny because Harrison Ford has also played Jack Ryan. Type. But it eventually it turns out that the person pulling the strings is Samuel Stearns, which is why you need to go back and watch The Incredible Hulk, because we have not seen him since then. If you remember, he was a scientist working at the university when Bruce is trying to find answers, and he's chatting online with this guy. Bruce is using the code name Mr. Green. Stearns is using the code name Mr. Blue. That'll come back. And in the process of him creating the abomination, Stearns gets injured, and some of Bruce's, I don't know necessarily Bruce's or the abominations, maybe both, blood ends up getting spilling onto him while he's on the ground, and he's got a head wound. And but what we don't see is after everything that happens in The Incredible Hulk, including the breaking of Harlem, to quote Bruce in the Avengers, first Avengers movie. I love that line. It's like, that time I was in New York, I kind of broke Harlem. Um, the government swooped up Stearns. At some point, Shield had him, but for the most part, he's been kind of under the lock and key of the U.S. government. And eventually, because the formula that turns somebody into a Hulk. What it does is it latches onto the person and kind of enhances something that's already there in a way. It's kind of like steroids, but worse. So for like Bruce, because Bruce has a lot of like self-esteem issues and that sort of thing, his Hulk tends to lash out. I think more out of fear than anything, and insecurity. But his Hulk can also be, to a point, reasoned with, because Bruce is also so smart, which is how we end up with Smart Hulk eventually in Endgame, and She-Hulk. And meanwhile, the Abomination, Blonsky, he just wanted to be able to kick Bruce's Hulk's ass. So that's what we get with the Abomination. But in Stern's case, he doesn't necessarily want to be a big hulking monster. He thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and that's what this does. He does turn green. But he ends up with like this giant, like, it's supposed to be his brain, but it kind of looks like broccoli because he's green. So it's kind of like this like brainiac type thing where his brain just kind of gotten really big and his skull can't contain it. But he's essentially a human walking quantum computer is what he is. And what he does is he can do probabilities and can look at situations, and based on the information he has, determined what course of action will have the greatest probability of getting the outcome, in this case what he wants or somebody else wants, which up until this movie he'd been doing what the government wants, including Ross, which ultimately helps Ross get into the White House. And whether because they don't talk like party or anything, we just know that Ross has been, when the movie starts, he's just been elected. It's election night. He's been elected president of the United States. So the previous president, who we saw briefly in Secret Invasion, presumably, had both of his terms, so he wasn't up for re-election, or if he was up for re-election, but he lost. Who knows? But either way, Ross is now president, and the president from Secret Invasion can go off and do something else. I don't know. But now, Stearns is at his like, ugh, I'm done, I'm over it. So he sets into motion this whole thing. He has been setting into this motion for years, this entire thing. If you remember I want to say it's Black Widow?
That could be.
Where Natasha meets Ross and says something about, hey, you look pretty good for a guy that just had a heart attack. I think I want to say this Black Widow.
I think so.
Either way, canonically, at some point, Ross had a heart attack and almost died from it. So, but Stearns, using his uber genius quantum computer brain, was able to come up with a way to save Ross. But it's we find out that this kind of miracle drug that saved Ross's life is actually tiny little pills of gamma radiation. Mm-hmm. It's essentially been feeding him Hulk Tic Tacs for years and years and years.
Yeah, what are these? Oh, don't worry about them. They're fine. Just take them.
Yeah, for your blood pressure, kind of. So yeah, it's essentially it's like Ross wants to, as president, he wants to prove to the United States and the people, but especially to Betty, because again, if you go back to the Incredible Hulk, you remember last time at the end of the movie, she's like, "I will never forgive you what you did to him, and I don't ever want to speak to you ever again," and she hasn't. So he and Betty are estranged, and as we saw in all of other Ross's appearances throughout the MCU, he's got the same attitude that he had in the Incredible Hulk. The man's always been a dick, throwing his weight around, and like nobody really likes him for that. So he wants to prove that he has changed. He wants to try and change. He doesn't want to be that person who's so brash and just, his first instinct is, punch first, ask questions later. He wants to try to be more diplomatic, to have more empathy. He was so sure that someone like Bruce, an enhanced individual, was nothing but a danger to society, and what wasn't worth anything. But of course, now over the course of 35 movies, he has been shown that that's not the case. Enhanced individuals, they can be good, they can be bad, they can be neutral. Who knows? It depends on, the fact that you're enhanced does not necessarily mean that you're evil. And so that's what, Ross is trying to do. He's trying to prove that, he's like, I've grown as a person. I've learned more. I want to, show that the U.S. and myself, we can be neutral and, not, again, shoot first, ask questions later. But of course, Stearns in the back is manipulating all these things. Isaiah ends up in jail, which, is of course terrible for Isaiah because he'd already been in jail for 30 years and he's like, I don't want to get locked up again. Of course, Sam is all like, it's my friend, and everybody else is like, other than Joaquin, and Bucky, everyone else is like, well, he had the gun in his hand, he did pull the trigger. But eventually they figure out that Stearns is the one pulling the strings in the background. And his ultimate final, his grand finale is to push Ross to the point where he hulks out, which is where we get Red Hulk from. And he does, and proceeds to beat the crap out of the White House, which...
Can you just imagine being a Secret Service member trying to explain this situation?
I know, and it's all like, there's, yeah, I mean, he's still president. I mean, he's president of the United States, but he's also a giant, well, in this case, giant red rage monster. And yet
his own
right,
yet for the next however many years.
Yeah, yet you would think after all of these years, as far as like us out here, it's been 17 years since something like the Hulk had been shown to the public. In universe, it's been longer than that because of the blip. It's been more than 20 years. And yet people, when a Hulk comes, when any type of Hulk appears, even if you're the Secret Service or whatever, their first instinct is to pull out their shotgun and just start shooting. I'm like, and you can just see the bullets are bouncing off of him, and all it's doing is pissing him off and making him angrier.
It's just like where's Unit and where's a certain brigadier telling them that 5-round rapid is probably not going to work for this?
Yeah. It was like, y'all are just wasting ammo. What are you doing? Why?
You're only making more angry.
Exactly. So, and that's what happens is like the more you make him, in Ross's case, the more you piss him off, the stronger he gets. And I mean, his Hulk form is really, really strong. Yeah, I'm not going to dive into everything, just because I still want people to see it. You know, whether while it's still in theaters or once it ends up at Disney Plus. Yeah, I still want people to see it. But there's this whole thing with him and Betty and Japanese cherry blossom trees, which they have them in Washington D.C. Which if you don't, which is it's a nice like kind of like subplot thing of something is something that Ross and Betty they have this connection with the cherry blossoms there in DC. But if you know your actual US history, you will know that those cherry blossoms were a gift from the country of Japan to the United States. And in this movie, we end up getting into a skirmish with Japan. That friendship is almost destroyed. So that's a fun little, I think, nod to like real, like actual history and like relations between the U.S. and other countries that people may not be aware of, which I think is kind of cool. So like a real life Easter egg, and but yeah, his Hulk is like super strong. Of course, this being Marvel movie, yes, he does get stopped. I'm not going to go into details how. But if you know anything about Sam and the way he handles things, yeah, it's very appropriate to the character for Sam. His his Falcon suit in this movie is the one that he got from the Wakandans in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Finally, after all these years, Sam finally has a helmet.
About time.
We can put away the Protect Sam's Noggin hashtag. It's very much similar to Iron Man and Ant-Man, where it's nanotech, so it just kind of disappears, but then immediately when it needs it, it comes back out, covers the head, protects Sam's noggin. Sam's noggin is now protected. And of course, his suit also, because it comes from Wakanda, and I'm sure Shuri had a hand in this design. It does have that energy absorption tech that the Black Panther suit has as well, which that comes in very handy several times in this movie.
I'm sure.
Not just against Red Hulk, but against a number of other baddies as well.
But you didn't see that coming, did you?
Yeah, that really comes in handy. And it's not just the suit; like it's the suit and the wings.
Oh, nice!
Yes,
thank you, Shuri.
Nice. Yes. So yeah, it's pretty damn cool. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there's one post-credit scene. It's between Sam and Stearns. Stearns is essentially insinuating that with his fantastic genius brain, he has seen Secret Wars coming. I mean, we know Secret Wars was coming. But how exactly we're going to get to Secret Wars and how much of the Secret Wars comic they're going to pull from as far as plot will be interesting. I've got a video that goes into a bit more detail that I watched on YouTube. I can put a link to it in the show notes.
Ooh, sure, that would be interesting to watch.
Obviously, very full spoilers, but it's also someone who knows their comic book lore, at least enough of it to be able to this is what they're pulling from, so this is probably how it's going to go, that sort of thing. Cool. And he does a really good job of showing how, again, it's all connected. As much as people may bitch and moan that it seems like the MCU is like gone off the rails, no, this is we are playing a very, very, very long game with this.
Trust us, it will pay off.
Yes,
the people know what the people in charge know what they're doing.
To steal from a certain Disney Plus series with a certain Archer hashtag trust a bro.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I mean the on the surface level, it's not obviously Infinity War and Endgame were just like, you can't see me, but I'm trying to raise my hand up as high as possible. Like, it's up here as far as like storytelling and the culmination of a lot of building up to this point. So yeah, anything after that is gonna, kind of be like, because, but you can't maintain that high either. Once you reach that high, we're gonna have to dial it back a little so that we can ramp back up again. In this case, to Secret Wars and Doomsday, because obviously everything with Kang has been, put on a back burner that's all the way in Timbuktu,
right?
For now.
it's its own little pocket universe, which may or may not see the light of day.
Exactly, that's the thing. That's the thing with Kang, is it could become its whole other thing. But the idea of, yes, we've got the multiverse, which is fantastic. That we've been able to, with Spider-Man No Way Home, to get those two other Peter Parkers. Obviously, with Multiverse of Madness, we saw a number of different universes, including one where, where Mr. Fantastic is John Krasinski.
Yeah.
Then we get Captain Carter, among other things. And even in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, we got that. If you remember, when Scott goes into when he goes quantum, and we get that scene with all like the bajillion different Scotts, including the one that's dressed in his Baskin Robbins uniform, because that variant of Scott works at Baskin Robbins. That is a contained version of essentially what happens in the multiverse, where someone makes a decision and that splits off into a new timeline. It's just because Scott is in the quantum universe, he's contained, so instead of getting actual new timelines, we're just getting this mini pocket full of a bunch of Scott variants. But so it's that, but kind of on a easier to visualize scale, I think. Plus, it's funny. You got the one in the Baskin Robbins uniform. But in No Way Home, obviously, the reason that those Peters come to our universe because of Ned using the sling ring, but the villains come through because of a rift in the space-time continuum, whatever you want to call it, the walls between the universes. So we've got that rift there. We get the stuff, everything that happens in Multiverse of Madness, including the credit scene, where we find out an incursion is going to happen, which we know an incursion is when the wall between two universes gets too thin, and they're going to collide and create a whole bunch of mess. And then in the Marvels, we get another tear, and that's where Miss Rambo ends up going. He ends up in the whatever universe that is, where we get Kelsey Grammer's Beast. So because we have had those literal tears in the walls of our universe, our 616 universe, well, technically the incidents surrounding those have been quote unquote fixed. It's not back to normal.
No.
Those tears are going to have a lasting effect. and where it's kind of like, this is my guess. This is how, but and I don't know if they'll necessarily, explain it like this, but you could kind of imagine the wall between our 616 universe and the others, because it's had those tears now. While technically those tears have closed, my guess is that where that tear occurred, the wall is not as sturdy
Right.
anymore. Its structural integrity has been compromised. It's like if you accidentally cut yourself,
Uh-huh.
and then accidentally, as it's healing, maybe accidentally hit it. Like maybe you got a cut on your leg, and then you accidentally bump it next to it on a chair or something, and it reopens, even though it looks like it's healed. I'm imagining the walls of the 616 universe are probably like that. Yep. Where those tears have occurred, the structural integrity of that part of the wall is compromised, and eventually it's going to fail.
Yep.
And that is how we're going to get Secret War. And that is going to be what allows Doom, among probably others, to meet our universe. Now, whether they come to ours, because Secret Wars in the comics is that a bunch of incursions start to happen to the point where every other universe gets destroyed until there are two left, and the two remaining universes fight for whoever's going to be the remaining universe. Now, whether that's exactly where they decide to go with the Secret War movie, I don't know. But that's the source material that they're working with. And whether it comes down to our universe versus Doom's universe, because then that's how we can explain how we're getting a completely different character who happens to look like Tony Stark to appear. Because he's not from this universe. And in another universe, maybe he could have been Tony Stark, but instead he grew up to become Dr. Doom. Who knows? But yeah, I think that the walls between the universes are going to collapse, and that's what's going to open it up. And I think that's what Stearns is referring to. In the post credit scene, the warning that he gives Sam. So again, my 2 cents based on what I know as far as the comic book source material and my own just kind of what I think makes the most sense as far as storytelling is concerned, based on what we've had happen up to this point.
Right, and what we know is coming down the pipe project-wise, too, that makes the most plausible sense.
Yeah. So, now whether Stearns comes back and ends up being a part of it,
that's
possibly
anybody's guess.
I mean, he's kind of calling it now. I think it would be kind of weird to not have him at least be involved someone in it, so he can be like, "Ha! I told you." Type moment, even if he doesn't survive to see the end of it, that wouldn't hurt my feelings any. But it would be kind of fun to him be like, I was right, to have his moment of confirmation. Again, to be determined at this point. I mean, Secret Wars is what, 3 years out?
I think so.
Ish. So 2-3 years out. So it's going to be here before we know it. So we'll start. I think it'll be interesting to see how Thunderbolts plays into this. How where Bucky is now. Because he does make an appearance in this to give Sam a little pep talk, because as much as they probably don't want to admit it, they are kind of besties now. Where Bucky is in life, how that's going to play into his involvement with the Thunderbolts, because before shit goes down at the White House with the brainwashing, because Isaiah is not the only one that ends up brainwashed. There's others as well. But there's also a former Black Widow that's now working at the White House as well. I love this. That's like, we, say what you will about the Black Widow movie, which again, I liked it. It is kind of fun to have, Natasha freed those Black Widows and, from their programming, their brainwashing, and they dispersed off, around the world to go off and live their own lives. And it's kind of fun that every now and then one will pop up and be like, hey, I was a Black Widow, now I'm doing this. In this case, she's working at the White House as security, which I think is pretty cool. But, also for fallout of Black Widow, we've got Yelena in Thunderbolts. We also have Taskmaster from Black Widow as part of the Thunderbolts. So that'd be interesting to see. And considering in the comics that the name the Thunderbolts comes from General Ross, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case here, based on where Ross is at the end of this movie. But we'll see. Like they've said, the little asterisk at the end of the title is not there just for decoration. It means something. So, but that'll be interesting to see how this ties into the Thunderbolts with those characters and how their stories have overlapped with Yelena and the Black Widows and Bucky and everything. And then of course the Fantastic Four. What occurred to them in that time period, because we're going backwards in time, presumably. Who knows? Maybe it is modern day and they're in a different universe. We don't know yet. We don't know if this Fantastic Four is our universe in the time period it appears to be in, that mid-century, or if they are modern but it's a different universe. We don't know yet. But having the Fantastic Four, especially Galactus, instead of, again, Doom and or the Silver Surfer, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out and how that affects what ramifications it has as well. So, because just, the closer we get to Secret War, because it's like the minute that they started, dropping hints about the multiverse, I got excited. Because I just, I mean, we could have easily probably stayed just inside 616 and possibly kept it going for as long as it has. Because, I mean, even just within this, there's a lot of material from the comics that they could have pulled from. But the minute they introduced the multiverse in Far From Home, although that was a red herring multiverse, but it's like I mean, even though that Mysterio was a fake, him saying that his explanation of the multiverse and essentially confirming Peter's suspicion the multiverse is real, it was legit. He just wasn't from a different universe. That's okay. Whatever, Jake Gyllenhaal, give her back the scarf. But yeah, since the moment they dropped the idea of the multiverse, I was all like, oh, because that just, when Disney bought Marvel, even though I was not really, at that point I wasn't necessarily a super fan, I love the idea just because I knew on, a very basic, I'm a human and I pay attention to popular culture enough level at that point that they were buying something that was so full and rich with different ideas and stories that they could tell. And by opening up the multiverse, that opens it up to anything and everything. Almost. It's like Pandora's box, but in the best way. So I think it's just, I'm really excited to see where this is going. I I was saying with Nick, it was like, I don't get the hate. You know, this is one of a handful of MCU movies that has been scored rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Honestly, this is my humble opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else. This is just me, Rachel. But I agree with Nick. I think some of it is racially charged because people don't want to see a black man with the role of Captain America. Those people, I think, can, if they don't like it, go find something else to watch. I'm sorry. I really like Anthony Mackie in this role. I liked Anthony Mackie from the minute he came in to start with. I really like him taking on the mantle of Captain America. Those that know me will know I have not, no offense to Chris Evans. It's not his fault. It's the character's fault. I have never really cared for Cap. He is just too, the same reason that I don't, it's the same reason I don't really care. I mean, I'm not a DC fan much to begin with, but it's the same reason I've never really cared for, like, Superman. I don't like the good-looking, perfect smile, all-American apple pie, gee, gosh darn, I'm just here, I just want to help protect people, I hope you like me type superhero. I like my superheroes flawed, make stupid ass decisions, and have to eat big old pieces of humble pie, and have to learn their lessons the hard way. That's why I've always loved Iron Man, because Tony Stark, he was very, very flawed. Is he super smart? Yes. He thinks he's all that in a bag of chips, but that's part of why I love him so much, because his ego is one of his biggest flaws. And that comes back to bite him in the ass, and he has to learn big from that. Meanwhile, Steve, to me, always had this holier than thou attitude about him that I cannot stand. Sam doesn't have that. Sam comes from a different perspective. Yes, I mean, Steve always had that Boy Scout attitude, even when he was scrawny. We saw that in First Avenger. So, yeah, it's not like, he came from a struggle and knows what it's like to be the underdog and to not be able to stand up for what's right and that sort of thing. But once he became Captain America and over, I don't know if it was just from being frozen all this time and missing out and whatever, the culture shock of that it's now 2000 whatever, but it's just, to me, Steve just always came off as arrogant, but they just let him kind of have a pass because he's Captain America. Meanwhile, Tony Stark, he gets arrogant, and they're all like, screw you, Tony Stark, you just think you're all that in a bag of chips. And to me, that's a bit hypocritical, but that's just me. Sam, on the other hand, the biggest thing for Sam is he's not a super soldier. He is 100% human like the rest of us. And, we saw that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's still struggling with that here. He still occasionally questions whether, if he had the opportunity to take the super soldier serum, should he? And, Sam just, I hope that they don't continue with I mean, no matter who you are and how good you are at something, yeah, you're always going to probably have moments of self-doubt. But I hope it does not continue to be a thing that keeps coming up and potentially becoming a roadblock for Sam. Like, he can have that moment, but then he needs to suck it up and move on.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you agreed to take this job. Do the damn job. You've proven yourself. Go. And I like Mackie's approach to it as Sam at taking on the role of Captain America, where he is, it's even in the trailer at one point, you see Ross is like, you may be Captain America, but you're no Steve Rogers. It's like, yeah, because that's Captain America is a title.
Right.
It's not a person. It's not like Tony Stark where he is Iron Man.
Right. It's like it's like in The Princess Bride, Dread Pirate Roberts. There's always going to be more than one, and there's always going to be somebody different.
Exactly, and they're gonna have a different approach to it, and I really like Sam as Captain America. I think Steve absolutely made the right choice in picking Sam for the to take on this responsibility. And I think Sam, all things considering, is doing the best job that he can, considering he's coming at it from a different perspective. He's coming from it as a black man in America, for one, just in it itself. And he's not enhanced, but it doesn't matter, because he recognizes that the title of Captain America means something, and it comes with a certain responsibility, and he's going to do his best to do that, but at the same time, to hold up to that, but at the same time, he's not going to compromise his ideals, but not in an arrogant way like Steve sometimes did. But I think some people are just like, they're not, for whatever reason, they just can't see beyond the surface level or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to try to sit here and psychoanalyze trolls, because that's really what they are, is they're just trolls. Again, to quote Taylor Swift, haters gonna hate. Taylor Swift, she's got a quote for everything. That's my 2 cents, without completely just explaining the entire plot to y'all, because I mean, y'all see it, because I think it's fun. Anthony's got great screen presence. He can be quite funny. He's definitely got his one-liners, like all superheroes do. They always got their opportunities for their fun one-liners. He and Joaquin, I think, are a great team up. Joaquin still very wet behind the ears. He's got, but he's learning. And I think, all things considering, I think Harrison Ford did a good job stepping into this role that William Hurt had made his own for all these years. I like how they just very much like Rhodey, where they don't really acknowledge it, other than again, I think it's been in the trailers where Sam is all like, "Hey, I like the new look," and Ross is like, "Yeah." It's like they're like, lose the mustache or lose the election. And we do get a flashback of him as Ross with the mustache that we all associate with General Ross.
Oh boy. Nice.
Just so you can just feel like, yeah, this is he's Thunderbolt Ross. Totally the same guy. Yeah. Captain America, Brave New World. I think it's good to have another Marvel movie, and to know that this is not the only one we're gonna get this year. We're getting 2 more, and we're getting Daredevil here, Return of Daredevil, which is awesome. Right now, 2025 shaping up to be a good year for us nerds. Marvel, new season of Andor, more Doctor Who. Who knows what's else? Of course, we got Wicked Part 2 at the end of the year. It's exciting. That's what other sort of presidency universe they're gonna give us for the next 9 months. As far as content. All right. Well, if any of our listeners want to give us your 2 cents about Captain America, A Brave New World, you can send us feedback. You can email us, fivishfangirls@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, which is the fivishfangirls.com, where you can find links to all of our various podcast-related social media accounts where you can also connect with us and our individual ones as well. We're pretty active. We try to be active as many places as possible. Try being the operative word. So I'm looking forward to spring break and catching up on some things.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm looking forward to a break and
Mhm.
also having time to catch up on some things because I won't be having to get up at 5 a.m. every day. Or at least a little bit. So, but yeah, we appreciate all of your support, your comments, your likes, your feedbacks, all the things. I know I'm trying to keep up with letting you guys know when weird stuff is happening behind the scenes. I'm not necessarily doing the A+ job at that, but I'm trying, and I know that for the majority of our listeners, they get it. Otherwise, y'all wouldn't have stuck around for more than 10 years.
Right.
And almost 500 episodes if you didn't. So, so yeah, we appreciate all your support. However you are willing to show it to us, and yeah, we should probably start thinking about what we're going to do about episode. We got a little time.
Because
We got a little time.
Little time, but it's gonna come quicker than we
exactly.
expected to.
All right. Well, if anybody's got any suggestions, you can also send that to in your feedback. In the meantime, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany Bango saying goodnight.
This is Sally from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. # Sam's noggin is fine. Thank you, our Fiveish fam, for joining us on this week's geeky journey. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay connected with us on our website, thefivishfangirls.com, and follow us on most social media with @FivishFangirls. Plus, check out our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back, to see how we're making a positive impact in our community. Until next time, stay nerdy and let the squee continue.